Hello, my name is Gail Seiler, and I am with Betrayal Project USA. We are a victim led organization dedicated to exposing institutional betrayal, honoring those who were lost, killed by the COVID protocols and the shots, and pursuing justice for crimes committed under the guise of COVID. You can learn more about our mission and who we are at betrayalprojectusa.org and get involved by visiting our website and clicking on the volunteer. We always would like to have volunteers. You can also follow us on social media on Rumble, BitChute X, formerly known as Twitter. We have a Facebook group, and you can find and a Substack, and you can find all of that on our website. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Beverly McCollum, whose husband was killed in a Georgia hospital. And first of all, thank you, Beverly, for being willing to tell your husband's story and for finding us. I'm glad you did find us. Sorry about the way that it happened. I want to start by having you tell people about who your husband was.
Well, my husband, Greg, he's the most amazing human I knew. He wasn't a perfect person, but he was a very close to perfect husband, and he intended to be that way. He commonly said, if everyone had a marriage like ours, there just wouldn't be any crime in the world, and that's exactly how he said it. He was so funny, he had a really funny, dry sense of humor that sometimes took people off guard because he seemed to be stoic, but he really wasn't. But mostly, I can tell you, he was so loving. He had a huge heart. He cared about. That's the whole reason why he wanted to go into medicine. He was a PA, and the whole reason for medicine is because he truly, genuinely helped people, and he enjoyed doing that. Wherever we went, he was always on call. We were at a restaurant one time, and there was an emergency. A lady in the bathroom that was pregnant had some emergency, and he had to go in to save the day. It's happened on a plane before. It's happened at church, and he didn't think twice about it. He would just go in there and take care of. And very calmly do it. What I saw sometimes, because he worked in the emergency room, and I would see the part he couldn't show there when he would come home and cry because he had to suture a child that was 3 years old who was in a drive-by shooting, and he knew that child had to go back home. He really cared. He also was the kind of husband that he would never even think about letting me walk on the outside of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It was like hold my hand going across the parking lot. He was so protective. I'm a pretty independent person, but I let him be the person he needed to be, a protector. And I really enjoyed that. I loved that about him. I miss that about him. He was that way about it, everybody. And one thing that I could describe as a lion-hearted. He really was. He was brave. He wasn't afraid to face things. It was wonderful going through life with him. And it's one of the things I've heard this term more than once since he's passed away, and not even from myself, although I feel this way too. He is a legend. That's what he's become. And in this death and recollection, and the person he was, that's what I've heard from more than one person, that he was a legend. And he still is. It's amazing. And it's a real loss to the world.
And he was a healthy man.
Very healthy. Yeah, I never ever saw him even with a cold, nothing. Even though he worked all the time in the ER, he was exposed to everything, but he never got sick ever. Not even a cold. Never.
Yeah. Sounds like an amazing person.
It really was. It's such a loss.
So talk about tell us about, he obviously worked during the beginning, during the first 2 years of the COVID.
Yeah.
I call it a pandemic, but pandemic.
It was.
It was a
I
pandemic.
completely agree with that. He actually called it that himself. So
Yeah. So he worked. You know, he worked the ER.
he did.
And so tell us about what like when he got sick and how he ended up going to the hospital because he didn't want to go to the hospital.
No, he did not. Well, first of all, I'll say this because this is a interesting tidbit. When in 2020 we lived in Midtown Atlanta, we actually lived in a high rise there. The reason I mention that is because they were kind of braving up all the medical people, and in Atlanta they would at 6 o'clock every night. Everybody would come out on their balconies or wherever. Everything would light up in blue. He was getting gifts wrapped in blue paper, which is, I guess, the color of the medical. They were celebrating the medical people.
Yeah.
And he hated that. He was like, we all know when we take this job that this is what we're signing up for, So he just thought that it was very unnecessary and ridiculous because that's the kind of person. He did not see himself as a hero at all.
He was
He
humble.
really was. But so yeah, he worked for years with Piedmont Fayette Hospital in their ER. He knew all of the people, but we moved during COVID to St. Simon's Island, which was 5 hours from Piedmont. And he had taken a position at a hospital that he was unfamiliar with. And he had just started the week he got COVID there, actually. It was called a hotbed. We didn't know that. I found out later that it was a red zone or something like that with the Delta variant that had come out. This was in August of 2021. He started that position, if I remember correctly, on August the 2nd, I think.
Yeah, that was right when the mandates came out, right?
Yes. And that, so he, in the first week, this man who'd never gotten sick ever started not feeling so good. I also didn't feel so good. And I was pretty much like needed to be in the bed. And I knew if I felt like that, he had to. We both knew it was probably COVID. And at that time, we questioned in our minds what COVID, what the truth of that was. But we knew, obviously you're sick, you need to rest. But he wouldn't because he was the only provider there. And that's what he said. He said, if I don't go, who's going to be there? And I was like, well, what if you got COVID and you're giving it? He's like, if everybody I'm treating has COVID, so I'm not going to be, anybody I've worked with is already being exposed to it. They're covered from head to toe in PPE. So, he just wouldn't stop. Although later he admitted he should have. He continued to work, and then he had like 4 days off. So the night, I guess he worked night shift when he came home pretty late. The next day, that was a Friday. The next day was Saturday, and he slept in. And I still felt like I still thought maybe I felt worse than he did because I guess he was hiding it. I really don't know. Maybe he was in denial that he did not feel well because he'd never been sick. But so Saturday he didn't feel well. Sunday morning, we got up and I made him I made him a grilled cheese sandwich, which he didn't eat, which was unusual for him. And then I was talking to him, and all of a sudden I noticed that he started sounding like he was drunk, and he did not drink ever. Obviously he wouldn't be anyway. And then I knew something was wrong. When I tried to talk to him, he was incoherent. So I drove
he had some
oxygen. I drove. If I would have known, I didn't know, I would not have driven him myself. I would have called an ambulance, but I did. He walked into the emergency room himself.
Sure. Yeah.
Then they got him a wheelchair, and when they went back, took him to the back, his oxygen was at 54%, and that was pretty shocking. And then now they got it up really fast. And they had him in a room. They checked his lungs. They obviously had I guess COVID lungs. I don't really know, but thankfully they did let me sit in the back with him until the shift changed, because they said, once that happened, and it's probably because he was in medical that they were a little kinder. But I will tell you, the first thing they asked, was he vaccinated? He said no. From that point on, he was never introduced without that being said first. He's not vaccinated. He's not vaccinated. And then and from there on, that's what we heard. But he wasn't, he didn't think he was in danger from that. I mean, he knew people didn't agree with it, especially in the medical community, but it would never have occurred to him that would have been a death sentence for him to say that he was not vaccinated. But from that point on, they had to admit him. And for the first, let's see, that was August the 8th, 2021. Then, so they admitted him until the 16th. He was in a regular room. There was a point where he was just on a cannula, oxygen cannula. He wasn't on the CPAP or BPAP or whatever, BiPAP. Yeah. So he was just on oxygen. He actually said he wished he was craving sushi. Like, he had an appetite.
Yeah.
And he didn't at first, obviously, but he got hungry. And then, he seemed to kind of waver. He'd have, a few really good days, and all of a sudden he'd tank. And then they put him back on the oxygen. I'm sorry, I don't remember CPAP or BiPAP or whatever.
BiPAP.
Yeah, but he was on all of them at some point. But Greg did not believe in intubation. Matter of fact, he called it himself a death sentence. He said most people do not come out back from being intubated.
Right.
And this was way before COVID. So it was.
And he worked in the emergency room, so he had to have been familiar. Yeah.
People would sometimes consult with him about stuff like that. He would always say, "Don't intubate. I mean, unless you're dying, don't, because it's not likely you'll come back." So it was a really, really big surprise to me when on the morning of 11:12 a.m. on the 16th of August, he called. So the whole time I can't visit. We're always together. We're always together. So without us being there, we just stayed on FaceTime almost all the time. Like, I would sleep with it on, because I would wake up, I would see him looking for me on FaceTime. Like, we were always together. And so it was really hard to be apart. And
so tell me about this before you go into when he was intubated. Mm-hmm. So on this text message on August 9th, he says, or you said, this was between you and him, right? So good morning.
So yeah, this came from my sister, the top part where it says good morning. She asked me that. So then I just forwarded what he sent me.
Oh, okay.
This was a little while ago, and that's and then what he actually said was, good morning, baby girl. The doctor stopped by just now. I'm getting some plasma antibodies, and if my kidneys responded to the IV fluids, they will give me remdesivir. That's the first time I'd heard that. And then he asked how I'm feeling. Maybe, I'm sorry. I asked him that. How are you feeling? Also, okay. And then he said, soon, feeling some better, just tired, haven't eaten anything yet. So that was a conversation so that was the day after he was admitted, because he admitted on the 8th.
So the day after he was admitted, and they're talking about giving him remdesivir and plasma. He got plasma antibodies. We don't know which ones those were. Yeah. And he wasn't familiar with remdesivir at this time, right?
I am pretty sure that he wasn't, because he was really kept up on things typically. And I think if he had known about side effects or anything of that he would have probably really questioned that. I don't think he would, because he wouldn't. The whole reason he didn't take the vaccine, it wasn't political. There was nothing, no background on it. He felt that it was a dangerous thing not to have any side effects listed, to have any testing, any term behind it. So when it came to something like that, probably they described it to him somewhat, is what my guess is, because when I told a couple of his friends that are physicians, they also didn't question it. So I think it was just a new thing that wasn't real familiar yet to them.
So he didn't, yeah, so he didn't really understand that that was a 50, 50 it was Russian roulette with your kidneys, right?
Right. No,
Um,
no, he wouldn't have known that.
so he started getting remdesivir and then, continue on. So he started to get the remdesivir
Yes.
and other things.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
not really sure, like everything else that they gave him during that time. I do recall him at saying he wished he had access to his records because he would have understood all that was in there, that he could have kind of followed along. At least he actually enjoyed that kind of thing. So, but he would definitely want to wanted to know since it was his records, but
yeah.
he didn't. He never did see them. So I don't know. I'm sorry, exactly what he did know or didn't know. Um, but I think at that time there weren't a lot of physicians that weren't in probably the ICUs or that were intaking COVID patients or admitting them. I don't think like the ER doctors that they really knew about that protocol yet. I don't think that I mean, they might have heard things, but I don't think that they were really all informed about what was going to happen to people who were admitted. They might have suspected because he did not want to go to the hospital. He absolutely didn't want to go to the hospital. The only reason he went is because he didn't have a choice. He was incoherent, and I took him.
Yeah.
So that was a thing for him. I think he did not really trust, especially going to one that he was unfamiliar with, because where we had moved to, he didn't know any personnel there. That he was completely new in that area, and we had not lived there very long. So, and it was again 5 hours from where he was working, and not the same system. So, yeah, he called. So the whole FaceTime part, we had been FaceTiming, and then Monday morning on the 16th, he FaceTimed me at 11:12, and looked a little scared and said that they were going to intubate him. And how they ever talked him into that, I will never know. I don't know what they did, what they said, or why he would have allowed it, because that wasn't like him. And I panicked when he said that. It was bizarre. But I trusted his judgment because I knew he must have a reason for it. I truly don't know.
Yeah.
And that maybe they scared him some. I really don't know. But anyway,
Probably. Yeah. I mean, probably
or
like
the pressure, maybe. I really don't know. Um,
if you hear you're going to die like 8 times a
yeah,
day,
that's
right?
right. I mean, I just think that I think there was some gaslighting going on, if that's the
Yeah.
best way that I could put that. Um,
Yeah.
and when you're in a weakened state of mind, you're
Sure.
more likely to make a decision like that. But I just remember being completely shocked and terrified. They kept me. They let me stay on FaceTime, although I didn't see them intubate him. They just the pulmonary nurse or whoever that was, after it was done, she said, okay, so he's intubated. We're going to take him to ICU, and we'll let you know when he's admitted.
So here's the weird thing. So you were talking to him, so it wasn't an emergency intubation.
We were able to say, I love you. I mean, we were able to say goodbye and I love you. He was talking. That's the whole weird thing. The whole thing is
Yeah.
just bizarre. I mean, it
So
didn't make any sense at all.
so
It's
he didn't need until they vented him. He didn't need the ventilator to breathe for him.
No, he did not. He was able to talk.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know what happened there, but so yeah, the next thing I know, at that point, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm gonna need to get into his records because I need to know, like, and because I had been sick too. By this time, I was feeling better and a little more cognizant myself. So I got some credentials to get into the portal, and at that point, I started really, really watching every single thing. I educated myself on everything that possibly could be happening to him. The one thing I didn't know still was remdesivir. I still didn't know what that was. I did request ivermectin, and I
Mhm.
was told by the PA there that the doctor didn't believe in it. I insisted, and they said that they would give it to him. Unfortunately, it was a little too late then for it to be effective.
And early on, well, ivermectin is actually, people have been saved. I mean, like last minute if they give enough. You know, but he had himself had asked for hydroxychloroquine, right?
Yes, he had, and was denied that.
Yeah.
And his friend, Dr. Cleary, his friend from Piedmont, he actually Saturday had called him and said, you know, can you call us in some a Z-Pack and the prednisone and
Prednisone. Mm-hmm.
there were two things that people. I'm so sorry. I'm still drawing blanks. I have a trouble still with my memory.
Okay.
But he did, and unfortunately, like I had to take him in Sunday. I actually picked those prescriptions up on Tuesday. So because between Saturday and then it was just so much had happened that I didn't ever get them. But it was really difficult to get those prescriptions. It got to where too the pharmacies wouldn't fill them. They became like the doctors, and they would actually decline doctors' orders for medicine, which was bizarre.
We saw that. Yeah, we saw that pharmacists had all this power to decide what you could have and who shall have a muffin.
And somebody that, okay, because I happen to be married to somebody that was in medicine, and I also find it interesting myself. So he treated me like a colleague, and he told me everything, and I really enjoyed learning. I was familiar with people's places and what they did and what they didn't, where. So none of those things made any sense to me. Like I couldn't wrap my head around how that was happening, but it was. And then, so I apologize.
It was an incredible amount of power that they had, and so it was hard. So it was hard to even. I know it was hard to get ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine because they had politicized it. Yeah. But they also knew
never got the I mean, like the hydroxychloroquine, that never happened. That wasn't like it was a myth. You couldn't even, you know, people wouldn't even say the word. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, so it was, but you know, prednisone and the Z-Pack, they saw that being so effective that they started blocking that too. I mean, so, and that was all over the country.
Especially if it wasn't big pharma making the money off of it.
Yeah.
You know, and we already knew, I mean, in all the years, we already knew things had changed. In where the power was, we started realizing not only had they changed, but we started really realizing that there was a lot of power in pharmaceutical companies. They really hand in glove with government, doctor. I mean, that whole thing started kind of being apparent.
Sure, right.
Attention. And so my husband, he's in ICU. I have very detailed records. I actually didn't keep the records because they were very painful to me, and I didn't ever know. I never realized that there was going to be fallout like this, like that they were murdering my husband. It never occurred to me at that time because I just didn't understand. I didn't even know. I didn't trust them, but I didn't think that they would kill someone. I really didn't think that, but I've learned a lot in the 4 years that Greg passed away. And I've done a lot of research on my own. I don't go through Google. I go through other channels to try to learn stuff because I know that that's definitely swayed. And I know that they check to see who's doing what there too. But with his, so he was in ICU on his 55th birthday, which was August 21st. They did not let me come to see him except for that. That was his birthday. They let me come to see him that one time. Then another time they let me come to visit again from the outside like that. And those were the only 2 times I got to see him until they told me that, you come tell him goodbye. And the way that happened. So all this time, and I have some text with that I had gone back and forth with his very good friend, who was a doctor he worked with at Piedmont. And so that's the way I kind of follow what happened, because my memory of that is just so vague. I was under so much stress, and I have selectively probably blocked it because it is painful. But what happened in the ICU, there became Piedmont became involved, which is where he worked and where his friends were, in trying to get him out of that hospital. They were trying to get him an ECMO machine.
Mhm.
They, and as a matter of fact, the director of the cardiology coronary, well, anyway, in Atlanta. I mean, he was a big dude there. He actually himself, on their dime, they were going to fly a helicopter with an ECMO in it down to Brunswick, which is where Greg was. They were going to cannula him themselves and fly him to an ECMO bed, because every ECMO bed required a one-on-one. You had to
Yep.
have a full team, which was the biggest problem. It wasn't really the bed. It was they needed personnel. We worked really hard to find places, because by the time we would get one, it had to be doctor to doctor to talking. Trying to get Greg's physicians to respond to anything was almost impossible. And by
Yeah,
the time
they don't want to lose the incentives if he dies somewhere else.
right. And
Yeah.
so Dr. Cleary, which was Greg's good friend from Piedmont, I gave him the hospital permission to discuss that with him, because I knew he would be way more forceful and
Yeah.
heard more than me. He was actually told by one of Greg's doctors that, do you know he's not vaccinated? Like, as if he didn't deserve a bed.
Yeah.
And Greg's friend, Dr. Cleary, went off on him. After that, he was easier to work with, but by that time, we kept losing beds, because I mean, if you didn't have it immediately, you would lose it. There came a point in time where it was like his only option was to get an ECMO only long enough, a bridge to a lung transplant. Again, they were setting all of that up. But then Greg became too unstable to move. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and I will tell you this, before they got to where they were really rude to me. The doctor told me the Friday, let's see, he died on Monday, the 13th of September. So the Friday before that, I was desperately calling every shift changes, hoping I'd get somebody new to tell me something, anything. I finally demanded to talk to the doctor. The doctor was so rude to me. He told me exactly. He said his organs are going to shut down and then he's going to die. And I mean, he just said it so ugly, so rude to me, because he knew what was going to happen. And basically, I had to call his dad and his parents and say, we got to say goodbye to Greg. When we went up there to say goodbye, at that point, we looked like astronauts going in the room. They let us go in the room, but we were completely loaded up. But
And this was 30 days after he was like,
yes, it was the whole show. It was a show.
yeah.
So, and the other personnel didn't have to go in there dressed like that, but we did. So we went to one at a time individually. When I went to tell Greg goodbye, he was on his side, and I went to the side where he was facing. He looked so good that I could not look at him. He looked so vital. I had to go up behind him to tell him goodbye, because I couldn't bear to just look at him and know that he was going to die, and he didn't look like it. He looked good. And, so that was how horrible. It was horrible. So I left there, so other people could go in. And at that point in time, one of the doctors, that's when he came and told me about do not resuscitate, and how cruel it would be for me if I didn't choose to do not resuscitate, because all we would do is, bruise him up and all this. I mean, he gave me some graphics to make it sound like it would be horrible for me to have him resuscitated, and that it would be no good anyway. So of course I signed the do not resuscitate. And I mean, and this is me in ignorance back then too. And I'm not stupid, but I feel really stupid in retrospect, because I didn't question that. I believed all the things that they gaslit me, and I believed it. And I won't forgive myself for that. Honestly, I know Greg would, but it's hard for me to swallow in retrospect. And so Greg died on the 13th of September, 2021, early in the morning.
So, so who was all allowed? Were you all allowed to see him?
Myself, his dad, and his mom. They were divorced, so they went in individually, but that was all. Just us three.
Is that his dad?
That's his dad. Yeah, they were best friends. They were so close. I mean, when I pray for him, I mean, I always pray for his grieving as strong as I pray for my own, because I know, I mean, he wasn't on any medication or anything. He's also, as you can see, healthy. But from that point on, he had to go on blood pressure medicine. I mean, it just destroyed him. It destroyed all of us. I can't even go to his house. I mean, that's his house in the background there, by the way. He lived on the lake, had a great, very recreational place to hang out and go. We had a good time there always. And yeah, I think that was the last message maybe I sent to Dr. Cleary, sending his memorial. They did do, because of course, thanks to COVID, we had the funeral was very small. It was graveside, which for me was best, because that's all I could handle. And it was a quick, easy, it was just the best way for me. But I had planned on doing another celebration of life later on, where we could be around people. But between his dad and I, we were just so destroyed that we actually couldn't do that. We couldn't plan that. We couldn't handle the whole thing. So Dr. Cleary and the APP staff at Piedmont, they put together a memorial for him in November, and that's the bench that they had dedicated him. They have a memorial garden dedicated to Greg. That's a bench he has. They planted a tree, a river birch that's there by the lake. It's a reflection. A lot of people go there and tell me about it, which makes me really, really happy. He was just really special. I mean, that's really uncommon for them. There's nothing else like that at that hospital. It's a big hospital. And yet they took the time out. So we had a memorial for him in November of 2021. And that was the better way. That's a friend of his made that to leave out there as well. I have awards that they posthumously awarded him. He was in the Navy, and I have he had a military funeral, and I have his flag. There's so many things that are about him that are good, and that he left such a legacy. And I will always be proud to have been his wife and to have been, such a part of his life. And there's no doubt in my mind that he loved me. And that's a real special thing to know.
Yeah. So tell people a little bit about, the impact that this has had on you and your family.
Well, I have said this before because it's true. It would have been easier for me to learn to live without both of my legs than to live without him. It truly would have been the worst kind of amputation. First it's just ripping your life apart. That's one thing, but you never get past missing that person. I can't listen to music. I had to make a whole new playlist that are safe, because we love music together. We just, we did so much. There's so many places that still feel like landmines to me. This is my daughter, Dara. It's her stepfather, but he raised her for most of her life. And because he was such an influence to her, as you see in this picture, she had just returned from Uganda. She is a missionary because of Greg. He really guided her throughout her teen years. He took her out of public school, put her in a Christian school, encouraged her in church, in youth group. And paid for her college. He supported and helped fundraise for all of the missions until she eventually was able to join a company that was a paying company. And she currently is in Thailand and married. And I just had my first grandchild. I just got back from Thailand myself because I had to go see my first grandchild, the only one. And that's my only child. But he really, as you can see, he was there for her far more than her father was. And he paid for her first cars. He was just amazing. He wanted to be her dad. He took her on trips. I mean, just, and that's just the monetary things. And that's because that's off the top of my head. But I mean, he was there like emotionally for her when she was in college and had a meltdown, and I would have one with her. He would get on the phone and talk her off the ledge. Like he was just such a calming presence. This is Greg, his sister Joyce. She's a pharmacist. His brother beside him in the black shirt, that's Mark, and he is a aerospace engineer. And then his brother Ben on the end he works for AT&T. So they're a good, successful family.
Yeah.
And so that's all of them. That's us at Christmas, Callaway Gardens. We always did stuff. We had a really good, fun life. And my life without him, I never thought I would be so lonely. It is the most lonely feeling in the world. My daughter lives overseas. Everybody my age is married now, and it's just gets painful to hang out with just married people all the time. It's an awkward age to be single, and it's very hard for me to even call myself single because it doesn't feel that way to me still. But I have moved several times because I'm so uncomfortable wherever I'm at. I'm never happy. I couldn't work for a while, and I've had a really difficult time trying to get back into the work world because there's a gap, I've been struggling ever since. I've had good times. I go places, I do things, but the hollow, lonely feeling that's in there is never gone. Never gone. I don't know if it ever will be. I know I will never stop grieving Greg, but I don't know if there will ever be an opportunity that I could find happiness again. I just don't feel that way at this point. My life that I had is gone entirely. It's just gone.
Yeah. It's like not just a murder, but a robbery.
Ways.
So at some point, you, in this process, from the time Greg died to now, you realized something was terribly wrong and that they killed your husband.
Yeah.
What kind of led to that? Was it the research you were doing? The
research to start with, because after that, I never felt comfortable. I never once the dust had settled and I was able to reflect on how things went down, it started just really affecting me because I knew, this is just wrong. The way the doctors treated me, the way that the whole intubation thing, all of those things, the fact that he was getting better, he was hungry. He wanted sushi.
Yeah.
He was getting better. He was just on a cannula. And then what happened all of a sudden? And then what they would always say is, oh, this COVID's unpredictable. We don't even know how to treat it. And it's like, oh, really? Well, then you do know how to treat it. You kill people. That's what you do. That's what it felt like to me. But yeah, so once I started getting, started caring about anything at all again, I started doing research. And a friend of mine that I went to high school with, he also, and Greg did, we actually went to the same high school, but so Greg knew this other guy too, that the same thing happened to him. And so I started talking to his wife, because they had a really good marriage too. And she's, again, her life, she's still very distraught. She's not the same. She's not okay. But when she and I started sort of comparing notes, we realized, we're going to start looking into this. So I started going into other off the record websites to try to find information. And I started finding a lot of information, first of all, on remdesivir. And that was alarming. So, of course, I start digging and I realized it's part of hospital protocol for, and that they get money for that.
Yeah.
Also, the whole unvaccinated thing, when that happened with Greg, a lot of people that I knew were not vaccinated because they didn't really they didn't trust it. But when that happened with Greg, all of a sudden, almost everyone I knew got vaccinated because it scared me to it, which is again part of that plan. I started seeing all these things, but I didn't have anyone at all to talk to about it because people just didn't. I mean, they don't understand. I think they thought I needed something to pin the grief on or to blame it, but the truth is I would almost rather it have just been COVID. That would be easier to swallow.
Yeah.
To know that my husband was murdered. And
Yeah.
you're paying them to do that, plus they're getting money from the government. And these are all I find out as I'm digging. So for the last probably 3.5 years, I have been my antenna up, looking at every resource and I'm trying to keep my mind open. I like to compare just to make sure I'm not being, persuaded by one side of anything. I really want to know the truth. I don't want to be just,
That's right.
Yeah, like a conspiracy theorist. I want to know the truth. And unfortunately, the truth that I'm finding is very dark and ugly. And there's a level of guilt that I feel too. I mean, I know I couldn't have known it, and I know that Greg would have never ever thought that or accused me. But me personally, I can't really forgive myself for not interfering somehow, even though I didn't know, because I'm a strong personality. I would have done it under normal circumstances. I would have gone to jail over it under normal circumstances, and I felt so weak. Then, like I just trusted them, and the fact that we couldn't go there intimidated me.
Yeah, that was
because I was so afraid that they wouldn't treat him well if I made a stink, or they wouldn't give me information if I made a stink. So I was on my best behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
And I couldn't be there to protect him in any way or to hear anything. I couldn't even tell you his doctor's names because I wasn't present.
And all of those things you thought would have happened. I mean, like that, I hear stories like yours, and then I hear stories where people did make a stink. People did, all of that would have happened where they would have treated it, they would have escalated it. They would have done, just trying to have him move. They probably they always put the wrench in having anybody moved because of those incentives, because they get the money for the COVID test, the money for the remdesivir, the money for all different
information, every bit of that from the minute he walked in to the ER and said he was unvaccinated. From that moment on, they started making money off. He went on the protocol.
Yeah.
And they went by the letter. And I think that probably the only reason they let him linger as long as they did is because he had 2 big doctors involved on the outside that were watching what was going on and trying to get him out of there. And it just, I think otherwise it probably would have escalated.
Yeah, they would have overdosed him and said, oops, that I think so. I think you're probably right about that. So that's how a lot of people come to the conclude, like every one of our tactics on the Deadly Hospital Playbook on betrayalprojectusa.org is that, people kind of sensed something was wrong, but they couldn't put their finger on it, right? Because
we don't know. We're ignorant.
Right. We're ignorant. And when you're not allowed in, you're, it's your life is thrown into chaos. You can't see what's going on the inside. Then you're suddenly asked to make these life and death decisions without all the information, without having been there. When if you had been at his side, that you would have, like you said, you would have
paying attention and questioning things.
Yeah, and you certainly would have been able to advocate for him. But not only that, the love that y'all had, you would have given him hope.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, they
And be there.
stripped
You
hope
just,
from him.
and and I think, again, like I mentioned earlier, because he treated me like a colleague, I had a lot of knowledge, medical knowledge, just simply because he talked to me like I had sense, and I would learn things. So I know that had I been in there, I have a natural curiosity too. I would have questioned things. I mean, I just would have paid attention. And I was so intimidated. I can't believe now in retrospect that I was so intimidated about not being allowed to go there. How did I accept that? I don't know. Other than it was him, and not like I was so afraid on his behalf. I don't know. It's just crazy. And what I
Yeah.
can say about the whole thing, though, is my husband was a Christian, and the world knew it. And I have a great comfort in knowing where he is, but it doesn't take away the daily pain of missing him in my life, and all the other people who miss him in their lives. And it doesn't matter where I go or where I am. I could be at a party at the biggest crowd. There's always I'm always alone. There's never a feeling ever that I don't feel alone, no matter who
Yeah.
I'm around, because he was my soulmate. He's the other half, and he's not here.
Yeah. We're terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry about what happened, and we're not going to stop talking about this and stop. I mean, we want accountability and transparency. We want the truth to get out there, just like the propaganda did, right? Like,
Yeah,
as forceful as the propaganda.
100%
And
agree. That's the only way it's going to work.
yeah, and so I'm glad that you found us so that you don't feel alone. And Ellie Hayes, whose husband, not her husband, her brother was 36 years old. He was killed as well by the protocol.
Andy, is that who that
Yeah,
is? Okay.
yeah, Andy. So she has a website or a Facebook called Dead Serious Kind of Not,
Yeah,
and
I think that's where I found you. That's
yeah,
somebody referred me there, and then I found
yeah. So she made you something a little bit special that I'm going to send to you, but this is it. So that you will always have a hug or a kiss, final kiss. And so she made you this out of your Christmas tree. So I will send you that. And so that she made that for you.
the best hugger. He was so much bigger than me too, so just felt like hugging
Yeah.
a teddy bear. It was like a really good hugger.
Yeah. I appreciate your willingness, and quite frankly, your moral courage to talk about it. And I hope you will join, some of the meetings we have with other widows. And if you know people who, anybody really, if they have a story about protocol harm, protocol death, protocol anything, that they should put their story in, because they can ignore tens of us or hundreds of us. They can't ignore thousands of us.
No.
Can't ignore tens of thousands. Imagine if half of the 1.6 million people who were killed by the protocol stood up. They'd be shaking in their boots. So people need to stand up. It's very important. Survivors need to stand up.
And like the people against the power actually outnumber the people.
Yeah, by
And
far.
it's just a matter of coming together with it, and refusing to accept what they're doing to us.
Yeah. And there's a lot of facts being uncovered in DC now with Robert Kennedy Jr. There were a lot of hearings this week where it should have been just like mind-blowing awareness.
Yeah.
So the fact that
Some of
they
them,
burned.
especially about the childhood vaccines, because I'm
Oh,
a new grandbaby,
yeah,
so
yeah.
like that.
the fact that they were told to destroy the evidence 25 years ago is very disturbing.
And it kills me that, how we blindly, vaccinated my child. I believed that I was doing a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful it didn't harm her, but it sure
Yeah.
harmed a lot of people. I know so many people in my daughter's age group, and she's 32. I know so many people in her age group that are autistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm in the same generation, right? My daughter and my grandkids are not vaccinated, but because Children's Health Defense did a really great job at getting that information out, especially like in the last 10 years. But I, was the same way. You're supposed to get these, you're supposed to get this, bring your baby in, hold them down. And I
Let them give them 100 jabs.
like it was crazy. And so, but it was shocking because I always say the Maha movement was built on the backs of gaslit mothers who were told that they were, and we're being gaslit, right? Like, oh, the protocols.
Well,
right.
here's the thing too. Before so much knowledge was available to us, like I hate technology because of what it's done to the world. But on the other hand, it's given us outlets where people, before they're shut down, they can get some information out there. So
yeah,
we become informed where before, from the beginning of time, probably people just blindly trusted medical. Everybody thought medical was just, oh, they cared about us and they're telling us, all for our good. And there are some like that for sure. But by and large, and getting more worse by the day, no, they don't care. It's a business and they will do whatever it takes to make money.
that's
And on medicine, giving us vaccinations, or killing us.
Yeah, that's the days of the old-fashioned physician and the non-corporate. You see physicians nowadays, they're either forced to be corporate or get out of the business, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they are. As a matter of fact, after this happened to Greg, quite a few of his colleagues at Piedmont left medicine. They're doing holistic medicine and things like that. But they were so disgusted by what they saw during COVID. That I think they just lost their faith entirely in what they were doing. I mean, I think they didn't feel any longer like they wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, I've talked to many, even whistleblower medication or whistleblower physicians and nurses where they're like disgusted with the fact that medical personnel have lost their virtue and sold out for the almighty dollar, and that is very sad. So
a lot of women too that can be strong armed into stuff of fear of losing their jobs and things that are anti-heroes.
Yeah, exactly, that's the thing. So well, I appreciate you, and again, anybody who has a story, they need to tell it. It's time.
I'm hoping my friend Melinda, I tagged her. I think it's somewhere on that page that I can't remember the name of it.
Ellie's page. Ellie's page
might have been under where you were. I'm sorry, I don't remember, but I tagged her, I think, but I might message her and just ask her to with you, because she definitely has a story. She's not okay. She's still struggles so hard, and
we want everyone, and plus we just so people know, before we wrap up, I do want to mention on betrayalprojectusa.org there is under get involved, there is a support group option so that people can sign up for the different support groups we have. We have a big Monday night support group, we have a PTSD workshop, we have faith-based, and we have the Twitter spaces that we do every Saturday from 1 p.m. Central onward, where we're talking about these things, and people can also tell their stories, but also connect with so many other people who are, who are just like you, where they're just like, they feel alone until they find everybody else.
Yeah.
And there's a great group on Facebook I always like to plug is widows and widowers, C19 widows and widowers who want justice. And Kat Crum runs that group, and she's amazing. And it's run by 3 widows and a widower who have all experienced this, and their goal is to get justice for what happened to their loved ones. And so, I think
a long way in healing all of us. I think,
yeah,
justice, if we could make the world know what happened.
Yeah, accountability. Yeah, accountability.
And also just all the people who gaslit us.
Yeah.
All the people who think that Greg was wrong for not getting the vaccination, that he basically deserved what he got. I mean, that's what it felt like to me when people would say, "Oh, was he vaccinated?" That's
I know, like vaccination status has never in the history of medicine had anything to do with how you treat it.
And just for the record, and I don't know if I said this on to you earlier or if I said it on this, but Greg was not an anti-vaxxer. He was in the medical field. He every year the flu vaccine he always got his flu vaccines, other things that he needed. He made me get my flu vaccine until COVID, because at that point he didn't trust about any vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Like I pray they're sneaking that stuff in there because it became evident. Not only did you not trust it because of the whole warp speed thing, but it also became evident that people were having vaccine injuries. By that time, we were seeing fallout from that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I will say this. COVID created an entire new category. There was a small amount of ex-vaxxers and then, anti-vaxxers. And then there was this group of ex-vaxxers, and the ex-vaxxers who will never take another vaccine again or shot again. That grew huge. And so it's very apparent in the numbers that we're declining with the boosters. I think it's something like 18% of people are getting boosters. My mother happens to be one of them, and she'll probably keep doing it until she dies. But there's this huge group. So like 81% of America took one shot because that's how good the fear was.
Yeah.
And then I think 69% of Americans took 2 shots, and then now it's down to like 18%. So
they're having coming out again. And now, did you not tell me earlier that they are still having protocol?
The protocol is still in place. So just so people know, this is September of 2025. Now we're talking about
4 years later.
They still have the same protocol. In fact, we had a woman reach out to us who buried her husband on Sunday, and we're seeing it being used in. Well, we still get calls from people in hospitals that need advocacy, but they're still doing it. In fact, it is the only remdesivir is the only treatment that they will use on 28-day-old babies and up.
I mean, why is that even allowed in the world? It should.
I'm hoping and praying that as all of this data comes out in these congressional hearings that are happening now, that remdesivir will be pulled from the market. That is a big goal of ours. And I think once the PrEP Act,
so much satisfaction in that.
Once they pull the immunity, that would do it alone. So, because once you don't have immunity, I mean, they hide behind the immunity, right? So once they pull the immunity, the problem will probably take care of itself, but we still need that transparency, and we still need accountability, right? For who put it in place. So, so it's still happening. It's not over. And before COVID, there was something else, and after COVID, there'll be something else. So people need to stay vigilant. And
since I've done the research that I've done, and I'll be honest with you, I have found out so many. Pretty much all epidemics were man-made.
Yeah, exactly.
Way back, even from starting World War I.
Gain of function, Gain of function has existed since biblical times.
Yeah, I mean, so it's and all those things are just like, and then there's war somehow. It's just a lot of things just kind of tie in, and it's really sad. that in this free country we're supposed to live in, that this has been perpetrated on
Yeah.
us for a long time, and we just blindly trusted, because we didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, and that's why people need to be prepared and be prepared and not scared, as Laura Bartlett from I do not consent form.com always says. And have everything ahead of time. Know what you're going to do, have a plan, because they have a plan. And
I have that, and I have it in a will and everything that needs to be, and my daughter is also aware. And anybody that knows me knows. Don't do
yeah,
that.
exactly.
I wouldn't take chemo either.
You got exactly. There's Joe Tippin's protocols save so many. So all righty. Well, thank you very much, Beverly.
It was nice to it was hard to get to this point where I didn't really want to do this because it's painful, but I'm glad I did because I need to, and other people need to hear it. So I appreciate you being patient with me and kind of
Sure.
leading me along, because it was really not easy for me to do today.
I'm glad you did it. I hope other people will do it too.
I hope so. It's not fun, but it's if it gets us to the means to the end that we need to be at to get some justice, it's worth any pain that I could suffer for having to relive it. So I hope that other people will do it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.